regarding your experience in the Navy, I kind of want to ask about this before I move on to your views on other topics.
Hmm.
To sum up your experience in the Navy, I want to ask, what does you got all these guys and gals these days on a boat, on a submarine, you're in the middle of the ocean, you're traveling all around the world. How did you guys keep entertained? Like, what did R&R look like?
Um, I can tell you aboard my ship, we had a radio station, we had a TV station, um, we had bingo, did a lot of crazy things aboard ship. When you cross the equator, it's called WOG Day. It's an initiation. That's a lot of fun. It relieves a lot of stress. But when you get into port, American sailors at different parts of the world, just put it. The old saying is, we worked hard and we played hard. Uh, Unfortunately, it just happens with stress, and you have young people. There's drinking involved. Um, a lot of things. What happened? I remember back in the service, what we got back from deployments was DUIs. Um, we had a captain. Uh, I had a highly respected captain, the best captain you ever want to have. His call sign was Rocky, Captain Robert Spain. But a new captain took over right near the end of my service aboard Enterprise, and unfortunately, his son was a victim of a drunk driver.
Oh,
So DUIs are taken very serious. But with this captain, one of the problems is you see like on Top Gun, a lot of young guys like to ride motorcycles, and he put a motorcycle wreck on the afterbrow of the ship to uh, remind the crew that reckless behavior. Everyone wants to keep that thrill when you're deployed. There's this high stress levels. Um, young military people sometimes take risks they shouldn't take to get a thrill. It's the nature of the beast. I'm not condoning a lot of what happened when we were on Liberty and things of that nature, but um, it's a nature of the beast with military people. It just has to be like anything. It has to be controlled. Too much of anything is not good for you. But yeah, it thrill seeking. Uh, there were you go to different places of the world. You go on safaris. You go on your trips. It's very exciting to see and meet the people around. For me personally, to meet the different people around the world, the different cultures, the different foods. I got very into that. That's how I relieved stress and the recreation. I mean, uh, there were no sat phones and internet back when I was on. So to a lot of your time is writing and calling home.
was there ever any, like, I guess we'd call them lovers' quarrels or something like that, where, I'm guessing you got a lot of young men there, like straight from home, straight from high school, and one day they wake up, turns out they're married to some girl in Asia or Africa or South America, or they don't even have to wake up drunk. They just like fall in love because that's the first person they fall
Yeah,
in love with.
yeah. I mean, that's the advice I gave a lot of the young guys. After my first cruise, it was given to me, but I was older. I joined the Navy at 22, not to the buddy system and all of that. But yeah, you go into country, you go like the Philippines and different places. Uh, don't sign anything, because more than likely you're signing a document that you just promised yourself to that young lady, and to get out of it, you had to pay some money. Uh, do we want to call it blackmail? But it was what it was. It was basically they did it to corner you into either marrying them or the money. And
It was definitely opportunistic.
yeah, and being of that age, obviously you couldn't afford the amount of money. If I remember correctly, it was like upwards $2,000-3,000.
Oh wow.
Your command would pay it, and then not only would you have to repay it from the deduction of your pay, also you got in trouble. You would go.
Was there ever warnings like if she has a Russian accent and is asking about the radio codes,
Yeah, yeah,
be
yeah,
twice as hard or be
yeah,
twice as
yeah.
careful?
I was just talking about it today because the Navy a lot. This guy served a while back, and he was actually he was a weapons guy or a gunner's mate, but he was a nuclear gunner's mate, and they had special insignias, and you'd be able to see who it is and what they do. So yeah, you had Russian women all over you all the time, and then they kept the gunner's mate rate insignia, and they eliminated all that other markings and nuclear or any special stuff, so no one would be able to tell that you were a special gunner's mate, or you have operations and lightning bolts and things. You're telling the world that yeah, you have access to information and capabilities that that Russian woman wants to know. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, the
things like
honeypots.
that.
I feel
So
like espionage back then was a lot more fun, if I may say, because back then, if you were, I guess, if you had state secrets or something, you could expect like someone to come up to you with either like a beautiful woman with a Russian accent or some money and vodka. These days, I think they just like look at your social media to save to see if you posted anything stupid.
oh, absolutely. That again, too. You know, when you're overseas, especially when you're a war zone. I mean, uh, you, it's very easy to technology is very easy to track where you are. So
Yeah,
obviously there are strict rules on when you can access, how you can access things of that nature. But back in the day, too, simply if you wrote a letter or you wrote on any piece of paper aboard ship, it had to go into a burn bag.
right.
It was burned. We had that Russian cruiser, and there's Russian trawlers following all the whole fleet. So, and they're picking trash out of the water. Believe it or not, they're sifting through trash to look for any clue or anything or where we're going. And I get a kick out of telling people all the time, how'd you ever tell your family where you were or where you were going? Speaking of code, I spoke to them in code. I spoke to them, to my mother, telling them where they were going, that only things my mother would know or my family member would know.
Right.
Unless I was stupid and said, hey, Michael's birthday is, the Russians don't know when Michael's birthday is. But,
Oh, for
so
sure.
you had to be careful how you spoke, wrote, acted. Yeah, especially an American sailor off the Enterprise overseas, and that how we're looked at as we did a lot of diplomacy. You're looked at through a microscope. You're watched everything you do. So
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of responsibilities because if some one person slips their mouth, it could be a lot of danger for your crew and things like this.
happened in
But
World War II before D-Day.
yeah,
A guy got drunk in a bar and started blabbering his mouth. Not only that, in the London Times, I think it was, if you could check the history of trivia and my knowledge on this, there were code words and names of the beaches in a crossword puzzle in the London Times.
wow.
Yeah, Omaha.
Yeah, definitely a lot of code breaking and espionage there.